GoLongTD.com, humanizing pro football journalism.
Drew Bledsoe. Drew, it's great to have you back here at Go Long. Like I just mentioned to you, you've been phenomenal. We chatted a couple years ago all about your rise, crazy stories from the early Patriot days, Bills memories, with a little bit of wine on the side. So figured we were overdue to bullshit again here. Thanks so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's a little early out here for wine, so I'm on this little tiny cup of coffee. We'll switch to wine in a little while.
Yeah, so you've got some wine events going on today, right? I mean, let us know, man. What's happening?
We're back in Boston. We're at the Quinn House tonight, which cool club right on Com Ave here in Boston. We're going to do like just kind of a sports Q&A and then a full-on fancy 5-course dinner after that, and then tomorrow night over at the Encore at the casino. So a couple of events, and then we'll head back west, and we got a couple events Friday and Saturday back there. So we got a 4-day stretch here where we're going pretty hard.
I tell you what, watching that documentary about sommeliers changed my whole perspective on wine, right? I think growing up, it was, you've got your reds, you've got your whites, and it is endless. I mean, there is a type of, I would love to know how many different types of wines there really are in the world, right?
Yeah, it's borderline infinite. Just because, but just in terms of the different varietals, I think there's something like 170 just in Italy. So it's, trying to keep track of all of it makes my head spin to think about it. It's ripe to be made fun of. There's some people that take it way too serious. At the end of the day, we're making a beverage that's supposed to make you happy. And, we don't need to, go too deep into the details on every little thing. Sometimes it's okay to just drink wine and enjoy it.
What's your go-to right now? What do you find yourself ordering?
Probably Pinot Noir. We drink a lot of Pinot, and we're making some really good stuff out there in the Willamette Valley in Oregon. And then we just released a wine that I think is really super cool. It's in honor of my dad. It's called the Mac. We just released that to our wine club. It's a really cool looking bottle. Just says just the Mac and script on the black bottle, and the juice is just terrific. So that one's been a lot of fun here recently.
I love it. So double back, right? In Walla Walla, Washington.
There you go.
Bledsoe Family Winery. We'll link it. And anybody anywhere can get their fill.
You can get on there. A lot of the wines are sold out, but people can get on there and get on our list, and then we let you know. So it's a good thing. Being sold out is a good thing. But we're making more wine. So if you can't get the stuff you want this year, you can get it next year.
Well, obviously you're here to announce that the Jets are trading for Tom Brady, right? That's
right. I got inside knowledge. I don't know I know that these script writers for the NFL write some crazy shit, but I think that writing a script where Tom Brady plays for the Jets, that's a bridge too far. I don't think that's realistic.
Yeah, that's I don't even know what that would be. That's beyond rated R. That's just right. Special screenings.
Cruel. Pretty crazy though, man. I feel bad for Aaron, but it's gonna be really interesting. We've got some friends that have a kid on the team down there with the Jets, and interesting thing that they said is that just watching the improvement in Zach Wilson with Aaron there as a mentor has been pretty dramatic, and so it's just going to be really interesting to see how Zach plays the rest of the year with the old grandpa there as his mentor. But feel bad for Aaron. I never feel bad for the Jets. I don't really care if they ever win, but I do feel bad for Aaron. And honestly, man, it was going to be a really interesting storyline for the rest of the year. But it'll still be interesting. I hope Zach Wilson plays well, except when he plays the Pats and the Bills and anybody else really. But I'm happy for the kid to get another opportunity.
Yeah, I think everybody kind of saw Zach Wilson against the Bills, and they're thinking, well, this is the same old Zach Wilson. He is terrible. But you're hearing that there was progress. I mean, maybe with a week of game planning, he can finally find himself here.
Yeah, that'd be good. Obviously, a very talented kid, and and just everything that I've heard out of there is that Aaron's been doing a great job of mentoring him. So everybody's going to miss the being able to watch Aaron, but it'll be an interesting thing to continue to watch.
And I love it. Right there should be zero empathy for the New York Jets. Right there's talk about cruel script writing. It doesn't. It becomes folklore. We talked about it, obviously. We don't have to do the blow by blow, but I don't know if people really remember what you went through in 2001 physically, the internal bleeding, right? Your brother wondering if you're dead. By the time you woke up, there's a tube in your chest, I believe, pumping blood out, and it's getting recycled back in. And they said they almost had to tear open your chest, right? I mean, it was close to that.
Almost cut my rib cage open and went inside and all of that stuff. So it's, but I made it through, whatever doesn't kill us. Right. And ultimately, life's been pretty damn good, man. So, I don't have any complaints, but yeah, that was a crazy time in life for sure.
How did that make you as a human being, right? Beyond the football stuff, going through that physically. How do you think it made you?
I don't know. I think for me going through it, it's, you go through something traumatic like that. I think in a lot of ways it's harder for the people that are around you than it is for you personally. You get through it and keep living and go on. And I don't know. I think in a lot of ways, when you're the person that the thing happened to, you worry about it less than the people that are around you, your loved ones around you. But I don't know. I'd love to tell you that I started to, appreciate life more and be a little more cautious. And I think for number one, I always really appreciated life. And number two, I didn't really get much more cautious. I would say I'm getting more cautious in that now, maybe finally developing a little bit of that frontal lobe at the age of 51.
Nick of time, right?
Yeah, right. But made it through some crazy stuff before I started to get a little more cautious.
Yeah, I'm so blown away by that desire to want to play the second you were able to play. Were you out like 51 days later, something like that you were cleared?
Yeah.
And it's gung ho. You're ready to go. That there's no second thought. You said the only time you thought if I was even going to play again is this other quarterback going to get off the field, right?
Yeah, right. No, it's but I mean, if you're going to play, I don't know. I think probably if you're going to do anything that's dangerous, you have to live in the world of denial a little bit. We all think we're invincible and 10 foot tall and bulletproof. I was just actually with Todd Rucci, who's one of my dear friends from my playing days. We were drafted together and we were watching some football games, and the two of us are sitting there. He's a little bit older. I think he's 53. I'm 51, and we're watching these games. You're like, man, can you believe we did that? That looks like that hurts. You lined up and ran into the strongest guys on the planet, play in and play out, week in and week out. I stood out there back when they used to be able to hit the quarterback and just got, drugged through the mud. And we're looking at it like, man, can you imagine if that happened right now? They'd have to take us immediately to the hospital and have us on life support if that happened right now. You just kind of have to live in that world of denial a little bit.
Well, shit, you were pretty close to that verbatim in 2001, but the decade before that was the glory era for pro football.
It was pretty fun, man. We had
the
some,
90s.
I mean, it's always been good, and I think the game's still great. But that was a good era, and particularly for the Patriots, just because it went from irrelevant to pretty relevant, over that period of time. So, it was a special time. And they were amazing teams to be a part of because we were so young. We had the worst facilities in the NFL by a mile. So there was kind of this underdog, us against the world mentality. And it almost felt a little collegiate, in a very business, the business of professional football. Our team, because we were so young, because we were underdogs, because we had bad facilities, it did feel kind of like college, even though we were, pros now.
You had to check out for the pair of socks You had to sign off to get a new pair of socks, right? What else does it look like? Those early Patriots.
Oh yeah, no, I remember like right before I got there, they were trying to get. I forget. They were trying to get one of the veteran quarterbacks to come in and be a mentor for me. And he walked in, and they actually had a soda machine in the locker room that you had to put money in. So you're a player. If you want to buy a Coke, you got to go throw 75 cents in the Coke machine in the locker room. So yeah, it was not a great operation when we got there. Thankfully, the teams we were on changed it. And then obviously when Mr. Kraft bought the team, things really started to change from the way it was managed from the top down.
I just love those stories, though. I mean, Green Bay, similar, really early 90s, pre-Ron Wolf, pre-Brett Favre, pre-Mike Holmgren. I don't think anybody in the NFL can conceptualize what it's like being a professional athlete in that kind of environment. You changed it. So what went into really changing it? When you look back at it, how did you just completely change everything with the New England Patriots?
When you're in the middle of something like that, you're not stepping back and looking like, hey, we're going to change the culture of this thing and, make an organization relevant. You're not, that's not, you're just going to work. Yeah. You just go to work every day and try to get better every day. And then, if you're successful, then, you look back on it, it looks like it was a carefully orchestrated plan with these grand intentions. But we were young kids just trying to figure out how to win one game. And that was it. But in retrospect, being a part of that, it did change things, but that's certainly not when you're 21, 22, 23 years old. You're not focused on, making this big cultural change, but ultimately because we had such a group of good people that were like-minded people that, came from radically different backgrounds, and came together to try to, work hard every day. And just the fact that it was a big group of great people, we did end up changing culture, but that's certainly not what we set out to do. We set out to see if we could win a game. And then if we won that one, then we, try to win the next one. But it was cool to be a part of now in retrospect.
Well, Bill Parcells kind of scared the hell out of some guys, right? He did his part in training camp.
He really liked playing that role of the Godfather, especially if there were cameras around. He really liked it then. But he was definitely an intimidating guy for young guys. You felt like you really were, especially like the first couple of times you meet him, feel like it's a movie character that you're talking to.
You guys butt heads?
Oh, well, when you're 21, you don't really talk back to him. A little bit later in my career, yeah, we butted heads a few times. Yeah,
that'd be tough, first overall pick, but
yeah,
like a college roommate, you're around each other long enough, you're probably going to go at it.
Right.
But man, I mean, what you guys did there, I was just rewatching the Super Bowl against the Packers, even, which it's closer than I think most people remember. You guys had a moment that you had the lead. You're probably feeling good. Things are turning.
There for a little bit. I've never watched that game. It hurts. It would hurt to watch it. When you get to that game and you don't win it, it's more painful than not having gotten there. So I've never watched that game. I do know that Desmond Howard ruined it. I did game day with him like 4 or 5 years ago, and I told him, man, I've still never forgiven you for ruining that Super Bowl. But no, it was pretty cool though, in a 4-year stretch to go from the worst team in the league to being in a big game. Pretty cool that we were able to get there. But man, when you get to play in that game and it doesn't go your way, that's really, really hard to swallow.
What are the good memories then? I think you mentioned that the first time we talked, right? Like, you're going to think about the bad ones.
There's tons of great memories. That's why I never watched that game. I just try to focus on the good memories, and there are millions of those. Man, we had some great games that year. In '94, we had the game against the Vikings. Being in Foxborough, winning the divisional game against the Steelers, and then the having to being able to host the AFC Championship game and win that in Foxborough when there hadn't been playoff games there for so long was very, very cool. But one of the things that happened for us that year, we played the divisional game on Sunday, and on Saturday the Jaguars surprised everybody and beat the Denver Broncos, who were the odds-on favorite to win the Super Bowl. And so all of a sudden, when the Jaguars do that, we look at, well, if we win, we get to play at home. So we were over at Scott Zolak's house watching that game, and we got pretty fired up. We're like, holy shit, if we can just find a way to win this game, we get to play next week at home. And both things happen. So I would like to say that year we had some people on the inside helping write the script, and they wrote a good script for us. We enjoyed it.
Man, your style of play, it does seem like a lost art. A quarterback at your size in the pocket, when you can hit the quarterback, you can pulverize the quarterback, taking shot after shot after. I mean, you took some blows, man. Where did your toughness really come from, you think, Drew?
Well, my dad was an offensive lineman, and both mom and dad grew up on farms. They were hardworking people. But I remember when I was a sophomore in high school, I got my first start, and I got hit. Ended up being a bad hit. I did go to the hospital after that one. But I'm laying on the ground when I'm 15 years old, and I can't breathe. And I look over at my dad on the sidelines who was coaching, and he just looks at me and goes, "Get up." Okay, I guess I got to get up. So I got up, and I couldn't call the play in the huddle because I couldn't catch my breath. And so I was but kept playing. So, staying down on the field was never really an option. It was never something that came into your mind. You just get up and keep going.
So when you went to the hospital, what happened?
I had a bruised liver. Guy hit me in the gut and bruised my liver. So I couldn't play for a couple weeks after that. But I finished the game.
I didn't even know you can bruise your liver.
Yeah, I didn't know that either until then. But apparently, it's usually something they only see like in car crashes, I guess. It just was never an option to stay down on the field. You just get up and keep going.
Holy shit. I mean, 15 years old, that's probably a point. It'd be really easy to say, this football thing, there's other sports I can play.
Yeah,
I can do.
I mean, we'll go try tennis or something. No, I was just loved it.
Wait, what about football? Just kept you coming back for more then?
Oh, just everything about it. When you're in high school, it's that camaraderie with your friends you've grown up with, and, bus rides on Fridays, going to your big game, and Friday night lights with the whole town coming out, especially in a tiny little town like I grew up in. That was the big event of the weekend, was the Friday night football game. So just everything about that. And then, then you get into, the teamwork and strategy and all the tactical stuff that you have to go through. And then then as it grows, now you get to go do that in front of in college, 40 or 50,000 people, and the pros, 70 or 80,000 people. And a lot of people are watching, and, just the whole thing is it's pretty magical.
You put it so perfectly. In a locker room, you really do have people from every conceivable background needing to come together for a common cause. It's not cliche and corny. I mean, there is something special about the sport that you can't really get in many other professions at all.
It's really true. It's something when people talk to me about, what I miss and what I enjoyed most about, being able to play in the NFL. It's usually the first thing I mention. In what other arena are you going to have this small town kid from the wheat fields of southeastern Washington, with guys that grew up in the city and Miami, and guys from the deep south, surfer boys from California. So there's just radically different backgrounds and different perspectives on life, and you get thrown together to try to work toward a common goal. And the thing that I always point to is that you hear about societal issues and all of these things that are going on. I think it's something that should be pointed to as an example for how you do it, because in the locker room, it's not a touchy-feely place. You're busting each other's chops on a daily basis. but at the same time, there's a great mutual respect in the locker room, and it doesn't, equality never really comes up. We're all equals, and we know that there, and it's just what can you bring to the table? What can you do to accomplish your part? But then with that, there's also these great conversations that go on. I remember talking to Bruce Armstrong about how he grew up versus how I grew up, and they couldn't have been more different. I grew up in a place where I didn't even know where our house key was. We never locked our house. And Bruce grew up with bullets flying and all of this stuff around, and to be able to have those kinds of conversations with somebody that you have great respect for in a very intimate way, and learn, that was the deal. It's like, hey, I want to know about what that was like. It couldn't be more foreign to me. And Bruce is the same way with me. Like, hey, yeah, tell me what that was like. What was it like growing up out there? And the funny thing is that there was one moment with Bruce. I know he wouldn't be pissed off for me to tell this story because I think it's a good story. But we're sitting there, we're talking, and we had this long conversation about what it was like for me growing up, what it was like growing up for him. And he goes, "Man, we really grew up in different worlds, didn't we?" I was like, "Yeah, Bruce, we sure did." He goes, "Man, I got to tell you, I like your world so much better." but no, it was a really uniquely cool thing to have guys that became, it's cliche to say brothers, but guys that became very, very close friends, that really counted on each other in a hostile environment. And you came from just such crazily different backgrounds. It was a great thing, and something that I feel blessed to have been a part of.
Yeah, I totally forgot. So Bruce was from Miami, Florida. Yeah.
He was from Miami, Florida. Yeah. Yeah. A little different. And, but Bruce and I, we're still friends to this day. I finally got to see him a few months back. It had been a long time. But we're great friends and, love him to death. But it was really cool to become that close with somebody that grew up that differently and really try to understand what that was like.
Meanwhile, he's protecting your ass out there, right? You got Bruce Smith in the midst of a 200 sack career trying to rip your head off, and that is the person impeding that from happening.
Yeah, that was my guy. Now, I was always nice to those guys, no matter what. They were taking care of me. They had my life in their hands, so I was going to take care of them, no matter what. But Bruce and I, actually formed a pretty cool friendship as well. But yeah, his battles with Bruce Smith were legendary. Those were two of the very best in the game at their respective positions, and we always equated it to the Sunday Saturday morning cartoons where you got the sheepdog and the wolf, and they come in and, "Hey, Bob, good, how how's the family, good?" And then they punch the clock and try to kill each other for the course of the day, and then at the end of the day they come punch the clock and say, "Hey, tell your wife I said hi," and all them. But while they're at work, they're literally trying to kill each other, and that's what it was. It was those battles were absolutely epic. Yeah,
I mean, and like you said, this is a different time, a different era. Any other hits to this day? Are you proud that you were able to take and come back from?
There were a lot of them. Actually, my very first game at Buffalo. Bruce Armstrong it was his first game back after a catastrophic knee injury, so he wasn't at 100%. Well, Bruce Smith got the best of him one time, beat him inside, and he put one of those hits on me that was it ended up being in his commercial, his Nike commercial the next year. But it's the slow-mo one where I'm standing there, and all of a sudden you just see my head snap back in slow-mo as Bruce put his helmet right between my shoulder blades. Today it would have been a $100,000 fine. But back then it was just football. But I popped back up and ended up throwing a couple touchdowns. They beat us last minute in that game, but I remember I got to meet Bruce Smith after the game. He, of course, was standing there talking to Bruce Armstrong, and Army said, "Hey, come say hi." And so I walked over and said, "Nice to meet you, Mr. Smith." Because I just watched him playing the Super Bowl a few months before that. Now we're playing against each other. But yeah, he put one of those for real hits on me in that game, and he goes, "Hey, respect, rookie. I put a good one on you. You got up and kept going."
Just hearing that from Bruce probably
Oh yeah,
carried a little
cool.
weight as a rookie.
That was cool.
Yeah.
I just wanted his autograph.
I mean, that was the iconic commercial, right? The bad things.
The very bad things. Yeah, with Dennis Hopper. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. God, and then the Bills days, though. I mean, there's some nostalgia there. I mean, you guys come out like gangbusters in 2002.
Yeah, that was fun,
records.
man.
That was a fun team.
We had a great time playing in Buffalo. You know, I think most everybody that gets a chance to play in Buffalo, it's very, very different than what people, think from the outside. Particularly back then, you're like, oh man, I don't want to be exiled to Buffalo. But then you go there. And man, the fans there are so loyal. The fan base is so strong. It's a small town. It's like Buffalo and Green Bay are like the two small town environments that NFL players get to play in. And it was a really cool thing to be a part of. Very different from, 30 other teams in the league, in terms of just how you're embraced in the community. You go out to dinner and people are like, hey, good luck this week. And that's it. It's not a thing. Yeah. You're not going to come sit down at your table and break down your third down calls. They're just going to wish you luck. And it was a cool experience to be a part of that.
What did you like doing in town here? Did you enjoy living in Western New York?
We loved living in Western New York. And for us, we were a little bit older and we had kids, and so we would, I don't know. The thing that was different there was because it's a small town environment like that. The players all hung out together. We would instead of everybody going out to the nightlife, the big city and all that stuff. No, we'd go into town and we'd go down to Chippewa Street every now and then. But for the most part, we would just have get-togethers at guys' houses and maybe an after practice beer at the Big Tree, and yeah, we would just hang out. And then we had a killer property there with little fishing ponds. So we'd go out with the kids and go catch some fish. Actually even got to go, I didn't even know this was a thing because we were playing football these years, but got to go to elk camp during the season, one night after a game, and hung out with the guys while they were trying to kill some elk.
Really?
Yeah, so I mean, it was just we went pheasant hunting during the season one time. I mean, it was very, very different than playing pretty much any place else, and we really, really enjoyed it, and the people were just absolutely awesome.
Probably popped down to Jim Kelly's hunting lodge in my hometown, Ellicottville, right? That's not too far
yes,
away.
Exactly. That's exactly where we went. Yeah, that's exactly where we went. Yeah. So it was cool, man. We absolutely loved it out there, and honestly wish it could have lasted longer.
And I mean the 2002 team, you guys started 5-3. Like I said, set all these records. So there's some good times there. And even the 2004 team, I mean, you guys won like 6 in a row, almost snuck in. That's a team that
races, and we just kind of couldn't sustain it. We had some injuries, particularly up front, and just couldn't quite sustain it, which was heartbreaking because we really, really wanted to bring a championship to the Bills. And I still, to this day, and I'm always careful when I say this, because I don't want to piss off any Patriots fans, but man, if the Bills finally do break through and win a championship, I might paint my face. Just the fans out there deserve one, man. Been so loyal to the Bills for so many years, and make it to the Super Bowl 4 times in a row. And as I was saying earlier, when you make it to that game and you don't win it, it's almost more painful than never having gone. And I know that's how the fans feel as well. They're super proud of their teams, but if the Bills do finally break through, and I know they will one of these days, they do finally break through and win a championship, I'm going to be pretty happy for all those fans out there.
How would you compare Bills fans to Patriot fans? I mean, that was a fragile time for both fan bases too, right? I mean, there's a lot of emotions all over the place.
Yeah,
thinking back to the blowout win over the Patriots too, mixed in there.
Yeah, I think the big, I don't know. I just think in Boston, the fans are just so diehard about all their sports, and sports radio has been a thing here for forever and ever. I think it's really where it kind of took its foothold, and so it's ingrained in everything they do all day, every day. Are their sports teams. In Buffalo, you got the Bills, you got the Sabres. But then people are also, they're doing other stuff, and, living life and so on. But but I would say the biggest difference that I would point to. So in Boston, you have a guy like Bill Buckner, who had an amazing career as a baseball player, makes one error at the wrong time, and I don't think he came back to Boston for many, many years after he retired. They finally brought him back and gave him a big round of big ovation and took care of him. Whereas in Buffalo, I hear about Scott Norwood misses the kick that would have beat the Giants in the first of those 4 Super Bowls. They had the big downtown parade and rally after the season, and he didn't want to come out in front of the fans until the fans started chanting his name. They just said Norwood. And so, he misses the biggest kick, in the world that year, and didn't want to come out. And the fans demanded that he come out so that they could cheer for him. And so that's if you want to put a dichotomy between Boston sports fans and Buffalo sports fans, there it is. Buckner couldn't come back to town, where at Norwood, they forced him to come back and come out and accept his applause. And so just radically different from that standpoint.
I had never thought of it like that, Drew. That's such a great point and unbelievable. Yeah. And really, when you're the quarterback too, they draft your replacement in the first round. And I imagine there's probably you're hearing fans just banging the table for this unknown to play at some point. So the fact that you had these great things to say about the fans says a lot too, right?
We loved it. We loved it. Yeah, fans are fans, and they're buying tickets. They're paying our salaries. They get to express their opinion. I've never had a problem with that ever, as long as it was done appropriately and not when I'm at dinner. With my young family, and that's why we're the people in Buffalo. If we were at dinner, they might wave and say hi. That was it.
Yeah.
And they're just very respectful of us as players when we were there.
I mean, I got to ask you though, with these current Bills, Josh Allen, week 1 looked like a different Josh Allen, right? I mean, 4 turnovers, wasn't himself. I don't know how closely you're really watching Allen and the Bills and that game, but how can they get things back on track?
They'll get it going. They'll get it going. The thing about the NFL is, even with the turnovers and so on, it's still an overtime game. They're a very, very good team. Josh is one of the best players in the NFL. It wasn't his best night, in week 1, but they're going to be in it. They're going to be very relevant, right to the very, very end. If they're not a playoff team that makes a run, I'll be extremely surprised. So I don't know. I think everybody loves to overreact after 1 week of an NFL season. There's 16 more of these games, and nobody's going undefeated. Maybe somebody does, but the odds of somebody going undefeated in today's NFL are ridiculously long. I think the Dolphins undefeated team, they can just keep that champagne on ice, and it's probably, I'd be surprised if somebody's undefeated through like 5 or 6 weeks this year. It's just there's so much parity in the NFL. But the Bills are going to be there at the end. They'll be in it. Don't panic.
Do you enjoy the quality of play today? Like we said, it's a totally different game, especially at
I do. It's really fun to watch. They've made a lot of rule changes, which are in most ways are they're all necessary, and in most ways they're positive around player safety. They coddle the quarterbacks, of course, and so I'm all of us that played in the good old days, we're jealous of what these guys get to do now, where they can't touch them, can't even really look at them wrong. They get a penalty and a fine. Can't really hit the receivers. But from a fan standpoint, it makes the game incredibly fun to watch. So I'm a big fan.
Even it is at the expense of football, though. At times it feels, to me, anyways. We're losing.
There are.
something.
I mean, it's modern day gladiator sport in a lot of ways, and it's definitely changed. I'm not going to say that I feel sorry for, but I at least understand the misery of some defensive football players now. Where you come in, you get a free shot on the quarterback, and you have to figure out in the moment as you're going 1,000 miles an hour how do I go as hard as I can? And when I come to hit this guy, well, now I have to like grab him and like pull him down on top of me. And sometimes that can even be a penalty. Or if you're in the secondary, you're going as fast as you can to go hit this receiver. And then at the last second, you got to see the ball, see this guy, and then figure out how you're not going to hit him too hard. So I understand. I'm never going to tell you I feel sorry for him, but I at least commiserate a little bit with, the split second decision making and the split second athleticism it takes to go that fast, and then to be able to pull off and decide exactly how you're going to hit this guy without getting a penalty, requires just really fast thinking and incredible athleticism. To be able to go that fast and then at the last second slow down and adjust so that you don't hit somebody too hard it's a really, really difficult task for defensive football players.
You're right. I mean, there was a play with Mahomes Thursday night where it wasn't a total fake slide, but he kind of like just pulled up a millisecond, and you could see that Detroit player kind of paused and lunged and missed. Yeah,
exactly. Like I say, it'd be really difficult. It'd be really, really difficult. But again, also admitting that I'm jealous. It'd be fun to play quarterback when they can't hit you.
So you look good, you sound good, your memory's obviously sharp as hell. Everything on the inside, doing as good as you can imagine.
I just when the NFL allows us to go get like every 5 years they can go get this full comprehensive head to toe physical. I just went and got mine and got a clean bill of health. So brain seems to function fairly well most of the time, unless I drink too much wine, in which case then it slows down a little bit. But I got a clean bill of health, so I'm happy. It takes a little more effort when you're in your 50s than it did when you're in your 30s. But yeah, so far so good.
Man, that's great to hear, Drew. Gosh, and love seeing everything you're doing. Business is doing great. Life today, yeah. What gets you up in the morning now?
Life today's good. We're I'm going to be on the road most of the fall, selling wine, which, look, I don't expect anybody to feel bad for me at all. It's pretty fun. But traveling a bunch. We're Boston now, then back to Portland, and then I go on this little odyssey. I'm actually going to be in Buffalo for the Dolphins game. But yeah, it's like Chicago, Milwaukee, Kohler, Buffalo, Boston. Then we're going to London, back to Philly. We're kind of a lot of airplanes, but ultimately at the end of the day, we're selling wine. It's pretty fun.
Love it. Well, hey, when you're in Buffalo, we'll have to tell the masses, and I imagine you'll be out there with the flag or something for the game. Right?
Yeah.
I'd hope so. They do you right.
We're going to do the whole halftime thing, and that whole thing. It'll be pretty fun.
Well, hey, you're the man, Drew. Thanks so much for taking more time out of your day.
Good to talk to you always.
Absolutely. Right.